But hang on tight, because what's coming next will redefine what you thought was impossible. You thought parting the sea was legendary? You thought conquering AI was unbelievable? Brace yourselves, because Joshua is about to face his greatest challenge yet. And this time, it's not a single battle or a handful of foes. This time, the entire land rises against him. Every last enemy is gathering for one final, desperate strike, and what happens next will leave you absolutely speechless. Picture this. News is spreading like wildfire across the region. Have you heard about Israel? They took Jericho without siege engines. They made the sun stand still. They're unstoppable. And the remaining kings are absolutely terrified, so they do what desperate rulers always do. They form the biggest alliance in the history of warfare. We're talking about every major power left in the region, banding together with one goal: destroy Israel before it is too late. At the center of this mega-alliance is Hazor, the largest, most powerful city in the entire region. Think of it as the New York City of the ancient world. Okay, massive walls, professional army, state-of-the-art weapons, and a king named Jabin, who's basically the regional superpower. When Jabin sends out the call for alliance, everyone answers. Kings from the mountains, kings from the valleys, kings from the coast, they all come running with their armies. And we're not talking about a few thousand soldiers here. The Bible says their forces were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. Imagine standing on a hill and looking out to see an ocean of enemy warriors stretching to the horizon. Horses, chariots, spears glinting in the sun, banners flying from dozens of different kingdoms. It's the largest army ever assembled in that part of the world, and it has one target: Israel. When Joshua's scouts bring this news back to camp, you can imagine the reaction. Joshua, we've got a problem. A big problem. Actually, make that a massive problem. Some of the Israelites start to panic. This is it, they whisper. We've pushed too far. We've made too many enemies. How can we possibly fight everyone at once? But here's where you see Joshua's true character. He doesn't call an emergency meeting. He doesn't send diplomats to negotiate. He doesn't even hesitate. God speaks to him and says, "Do not be afraid of them, because by this time tomorrow I will hand all of them over to Israel." And Joshua's response? We march at dawn. The young soldiers are trembling as they prepare for battle. Will we ever be ready? One whispers, voice shaking despite the courage in his eyes. And Joshua's answer cuts through every doubt. We are ready. The Lord has brought us here. He will fight for us. That's the voice of a man who has learned that when God is on your side, numbers don't matter. The strategy Joshua develops is absolutely brilliant. Instead of meeting this massive army head-on, which would be suicide, he plans a surprise attack. They march all night to reach the enemy camp at the springs of Merom, and just as dawn breaks, Joshua launches the most audacious assault in military history. While the enemy is still waking up, still organizing, still trying to coordinate between all these different armies that have never fought together before, Israel strikes. The chaos is immediate and total. Imagine you're a soldier in this massive coalition, half asleep, trying to figure out where your unit fits in with all these other armies. When suddenly Israeli warriors come charging out of the dawn mist, screaming war cries, completely organized and ready for battle. Panic spreads through the coalition like wildfire. The beautiful thing about these huge alliances is that they look impressive, but they're actually incredibly fragile. Different languages, different fighting styles, different loyalties, different commanders, all trying to coordinate. It's a logistical nightmare, even in the best circumstances. And when Joshua hits them with a surprise attack at dawn, the whole thing falls apart instantly. Horses rear and bolt. Chariots crash into each other. Soldiers from different kingdoms start fighting their own allies in the confusion. The chain of command collapses as kings flee in different directions. What should have been Israel's doom becomes their greatest victory as this supposedly unstoppable army tears itself apart in panic and confusion. Joshua presses the attack relentlessly. He doesn't let up, doesn't give them time to regroup, doesn't show any mercy. His forces pursue the fleeing enemy across the entire region, hunting down every pocket of resistance. The Bible says they left no survivors. This isn't just a military defeat. It's the complete destruction of organized opposition to Israel in the Promised Land. But Joshua isn't done yet. Remember, this all started with Hazor, the superpower city that organized this coalition. So Joshua turns his attention to the city that thought it could destroy God's people. Zor burns completely. The archaeological evidence shows a massive destruction layer from this exact time period. The city was literally burned to the ground so thoroughly that it took generations to rebuild. The psychological impact is devastating. Every remaining city in the region gets the message loud and clear: don't mess with Israel. Some surrender immediately. Others simply abandon their cities and flee. The few that try to resist are crushed quickly and decisively. Joshua has broken the back of organized resistance in the Promised Land. After this final battle, something amazing happens. The Bible says the land had rest from war. For the first time in decades, Israel isn't fighting for survival. They're not wandering in the wilderness. They're not facing impossible odds. They're home. The conquest is essentially complete. Joshua begins the massive task of dividing the land among the 12 tribes. Each family gets their inheritance, their piece of the promise. Cities are rebuilt, fields are planted, children are born who have never known anything but the promised land. The nation of former slaves has become a regional superpower. But here's what makes this story truly incredible. It all happened because one man trusted God completely. Joshua never had superior numbers. He never had better weapons. He never had easier battles. What he had was absolute, unwavering faith that when God makes a promise, he keeps it. Every impossible river, every unconquerable city, every overwhelming enemy, Joshua faced them all with the same response: God said it, so we do it. Standing on a ridge overlooking the conquered territories, Joshua can see the fulfillment of a promise made to Abraham hundreds of years earlier. Cities bustling with life, fields green with crops, children playing in streets that used to echo with the sounds of war. The wandering is over. The battles are won. The promise is fulfilled. The young soldier who once asked, "Will we ever be ready?" now stands as a veteran warrior, training the next generation. The mothers who clutched their children in terror now watch them grow up in safety. The elders who whispered prayers through sleepless nights of battle now tell stories of victory to wide-eyed grandchildren. This is what happens when ordinary people do extraordinary things through faith. This is what happens when you trust God's promises even when they seem impossible. This is the story of Joshua, the man who learned that the battle truly does belong to the Lord, and that when you fight his battles his way, victory is not just possible, it's guaranteed. From crossing an impossible river, to toppling unconquerable walls, to defeating overwhelming odds, Joshua proved that with God nothing is impossible. The Promised Land wasn't just conquered, it was claimed, settled, and transformed into home. And it all started with one simple choice: to trust God completely, no matter what.